Folks, we're going live.
Shabbat Shalom. Pages 10 and 11. Pages 10 and 11. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. 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 Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Near the bottom of page 11. Ki eshmer Shabbat el yishmereni. Ki eshmer Shabbat el yishmereni. Od hi leolam mehad beino uveini. Od hi leolam mehad beino uveini. Ki eshmer Shabbat el yishmereni. Ki eshmer Shabbat el yishmereni. Od hi leolam mehad beino uveini. Od hi leolam mehad beino uveini. Ms. Marlis, which microphone are you going to use? Okay, real close.
Good evening and good Shabbos, and welcome to Bet Shalom, Temple Center for our services. Please turn off your cell phone and put it in the vibrating mode, and if you have a watch, put it on don't vibrate too. Mine always seems to go off. The restrooms are located to your rear in the back. The fire extinguishers are located by the rear exit door in the kitchen. Kitchen is, the door is under the clock. There is a defibrillator and it's located behind you on the wall next to the prayer shelves. First aid and blood control kits are clearly marked and in the location on the bima, in the kitchen, and in the library over there. Front double doors which you entered through are also the normal exit doors. All other clearly marked exit doors are for emergency exit only. You have a door there and you have a door there. If the power goes out, there'll be a line. Oh, I'm kidding. If the power goes out, the emergency lighting should immediately turn on for your safety. You will receive further instructions from our temple leadership. In the event of potentially threatening situation, you may be directed to move into our kitchen to the rear, again back there. It may serve as our safe room in certain emergency situations. The main entrance doors will be locked once services begin. If you need to leave after the service has begun, please see the security person near the foyer exit door. In this case, it's Mike. And and he will let you out through the double doors you entered through. Are there any new members or any guests attending that would like to say hello? We're all old, huh?
No, you got some.
Yes.
Please.
Hello. I'm Holly Madsen. This is my husband Andy. And my dad's American calendar yard site is in 2 days. 'Cause I don't know what day it is. It's the 4th. Anyway, Hebrew calendar the 25th. So we're here.
To celebrate it.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Please.
Martian at Greenberg.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. There are some upcoming events I'd like to make you aware of, and the whole thing is outside on the table out there, but I'll only read some of them. The rest of them are in the shofar. December 7th, 9 a.m. is the BSTC Book Club. Wednesday, December 7th at 2:30 p.m. is Learn to Play Mahjong. December 7th at 1 p.m. the Art Gallery is open. On Wednesdays, December 7th at 2 p.m., Harriet Eyre, My Life as a Fashion Model, will be here. And there's a Torah study on Saturday, December 10th. Sunday, December 11th, Men's Club breakfast meeting at BTC, and Tuesday, December 13th is the Sisterhood meeting. And if you want to learn to play Mahjong, December 14th, Wednesday. Wednesday seems to be a busy day here.
Marlis,
Yes,
you forgot the bagel breakfast in 2 days.
I did because no one can come anymore if they haven't signed up. But there's a bagel breakfast on
Well, just
Sunday.
to remind people that did sign up.
Oh, well, okay.
Make sure they come.
Make sure you come to the bagel breakfast if you've signed up. It's fun. Are there any other announcements I might have missed?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. You said Torah study next week, but there's also Torah study
this week.
tomorrow morning,
Yes.
10 o'clock on Zoom. And then on Tuesday afternoon is the monthly Parshat Shavua class, also on Zoom at 2 o'clock
Okay,
on Tuesday.
good. Wasn't here. Good. Perfect. Okay,
Okay.
perfect. Okay.
All right.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, thank you. We'll continue, no, don't go down. All right, so we'll continue with the ritual to light and bless our Shabbat candles, pages 2 and 3 of the prayer book. Pages 2 and 3. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us, as their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat, lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you. Page 6. On page 6, we have entered the sanctuary to welcome the Shabbat. Within these walls, we're surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst, Throughout long history and endless wanderings, it has endured as a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves together. Now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt,
the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak.
Let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer. Page 16. Page 16 from Psalm 98. Zamru l'Adonai bechinor v'kol zimra, v'chatzotzrot v'kol shofar. Hariu lifnei hamelech Adonai. Yiram hayam u'melo, tevel v'yoshveva. Neharot yimcha ucha, yachad harim yiranenu. Lifnei Adonai kiva, lishpot haaretz, yishpot tevel b'tzedek, ve'amim b'mehesharim. Yiram hayam u'melo, tevel v'yoshveva. Neharot yimcha uchaf, yachad harim yiranenu. Page 20. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabla lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabla Shabbat shalom Shabbat shalom u'mevorach. Shabbat shalom u'mevorach. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabla lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabla Shabbat shalom u'mevorach. Shabbat shalom u'mevorach. Our worship continues, page 145. 145. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalmad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayircho beit Yisrael, bahagala u'v'zmahan kariv v'yimeru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivorach le'olam olmei maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmeid kudsha b'richu le'amin kol birchata v'shihirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imeru amen. call to worship is on page 146. If you are comfortable in doing so, I invite you to please rise. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vahed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Asher Yidvaro Ma'ariv Aravim, B'chokhma Poteach She'arim, Uvitvuna Meshane Itim U'Machalif Et HaZmanim, U'Msader Et HaKochavim B'Mishmerotehem, Baraki Kirtzono, Boreyam V'Layla, Golel Or Mipnei Choshech V'Choshech Mipnei Or, U'Ma'avir Yom U'Mevi Layla, U'Mavdil Bein Yom U'Vein Layla Adonai Tzavaot Shemo, El Chai V'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai HaMa'ariv Aravim. Page 148, responsively. In each age we receive and transmit the Torah. At each moment we are addressed by the world.
In each age we are challenged by our ancient teachings. In each moment we stand face to face with truth.
In each age we add our wisdom to that which has gone before. At each moment, the knowing heart is filled with wonder.
In each age, the children of Torah become its builders and seek to set the world firm on a foundation of truth.
Baruch Ata Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. May be seated. Page 150, the words of Deuteronomy. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol vavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shidantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shiftecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shachbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, lehiyot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Amen. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all. Yet that one, we're responsively 151. I'll start again. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all.
Yet that oneness eludes our grasp, but imperfection and evil bound.
Before our eyes there's a vision of perfection, order, and goodness.
There is evil enough to break the heart, and there is good enough to exalt the soul.
When will redemption come?
When we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves.
Long ago we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High.
We learned God's presence redeems time and event. So we celebrate this power that makes for freedom.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot, oseh feleh, Nora tehilot, oseh feleh. Malchutecha, rahu vanecha, Bokei Ayam, Lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Zehelianu ve'ameru, Adonai yimloch, Adonai yimloch, Leolam va'ed. Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Gaal Yisrael. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. For you are true protection and safety. In your presence we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us Sukkot Shlomecha, your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores Sukkot Shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores Sukkot Shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo, ve'al Yerushalayim Shalom. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo, ve'al Yerushalayim Shalom. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores Sukkot Shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasod et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. And our tefillah, Amidah, Shmona Esrei, the central part of our worship service, begins on page 155. Again, I invite you, if you are comfortable in doing so, to please rise. The ark will be open. We'll join in chanting together the first several pages in Hebrew. Adonai sifatai tiftach, ufiyagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei hakol, V'zocher chasdei avot v'imot, U'mevi geula livnei b'neihem, Leman shemo be'ahava, Melech ozer Moshiach Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah. Atah gibor leolam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah Rab lehoshia, Mashiv haruach umorid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech olim, Umatihir asurim, Umkayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Lichamocha ba'al gevurot, Umidam melach, Melech memid umchayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Chayei hakol. Atah kadosh, v'shimcha kadosh, u'kdoshim b'chol yom yalalucha, Selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. You may be seated. Bottom of page 159. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu ritzei v'imnu chatenu kadshenu b'mitzvotecha v'tein chalkenu b'toratecha sabeinu mituvecha v'samchenu b'shuatecha v'taher libenu la'avdecha be'emet v'hanchilenu Adonai Eloheinu b'ahava u'v'ratzon Shabbat kodshecha v'yanuchu v'Yisrael mekadshei shemecha Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Middle of page 161. Together, be gracious, Adonai our God, to your people Israel, and receive our prayers with love. And may our worship always be acceptable to you. Fill us with the knowledge that you are near to all who seek you in truth. The middle of the next page. Let our eyes behold your presence in our midst and in the midst of our people in Zion. Blessed is Adonai, whose presence renews Zion. Modim anachnu lach, shatahu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu leolam va'ed. Tzur chayenu magen yishenu atahu ledor vador. 163. For the good in us which calls us to a better life, we give thanks.
For the strength to improve the world with our hearts and our hands, we offer praise.
For the desire in us which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful.
For life and nature, harmony and beauty, for the hope of tomorrow, all praise to the psalmist's being.
For all these things, O Sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai, your name is goodness. You are worthy of our thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, Hatov Shimcha, Ulechana El Lahodot. Shalom Ra, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Ra, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. כי אתה הוא מלך אדום לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך אדום לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. We'll pause for a moment of silent prayer. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. And with a prayer for shalom on our lips and in our hearts, please turn to page 253. 253. We offer a Misha Beirach prayer of healing and wholeness, of refuah, of renewal, recovery for those who are ill, those who are in pain and suffering, those who are hospitalized or facing or recovering from surgeries. We pray on their behalf. And may they be granted a sense of wholeness and a sense of renewal, healing, and peace. Before we join together in singing Debbie Friedman's interpretation of the traditional prayer. We read these names which appear on our Misha Berach list. We think of, and our prayers are extended on behalf of Harvey Beam and Sarah Benish, Clarence Boykins, Bruce Giccone, Dennis Durante, Helene Fields, Melissa Feldman, Jeffrey Saul Gervan, Philip Getzig, Ron Grant, Warren Gratis, Rosalind Greenberg, Riva Greenblatt, Sharon Spears Holleran, James Hudson, Sheila Greenblatt Minton, Fred Legatt and Joe Legatt, Dory Lessa, Ricky Lataut, Steve Marin, Ingrid Rothman, Yolanda Silbus, Merle Sobel, Marla Stein, Alan Winter, and Wanda Wolowski. Are there others whose names anyone would wish to add? Please, Jean.
Nancy Paternoster.
Please.
Skip Markowitz.
Please. Sid.
Gary and Joanne Theo and Steve Carton.
For all of them, we wish a sense of renewal of body and of spirit. Middle of page 253. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor Habracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor Habracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, friends, first, I want to share with you a letter which will be sent out to the congregation sometime in the next week or two in anticipation of a change that we're making in our customs and our patterns. I'm just going to read it to you now. You can start to think about it and react. I wanted to send out this explanation to all in anticipation of a change in our minhag, that's our custom, involving the Misha Berach prayer for healing at Beth Shalom Temple Center. Several committees, the board and I have been researching and discussing this in response to concerns that have been shared with us both privately and publicly. So as of January 2023, we will no longer publicize on the website, nor will we read out loud at services a list of names which have been submitted for inclusion in our community's prayers. The service leader or I will introduce the singing of Misha Berach and allow for several moments of meditation during which all will be encouraged to recite names, but silently, only to themselves, not publicly. The website will provide a personal prayer which anyone may use for their personal thoughts on behalf of loved ones or friends who are in need, in pain or suffering in some way. Also, anyone is welcome to approach me personally or the caring committee with a request for us to offer pastoral support to that same loved one or friend. The public announcing of names of those in need of prayer, such as Mishaberach, in the manner in which we only did it a few moments ago, is actually a relatively new pattern in the Jewish world. Traditionally, and frankly, only being encouraged for the last 100 years or so, the request for such a prayer in the synagogue, or at home, or in the hospital, was accompanied by the giving of tzedakah, of charity. And the wording of the Mishaberach prayer specified that, and even included frequently not only the announcement of who was giving the charity, but of how much the contribution was. Today, however, we're facing the restrictions of HIPAA confidentiality and the earnest desires of many to keep their health conditions private to themselves. Our intentions in praying for their recovery and wholeness may be very sincere, but our present practice has been hurtful to some and quite cumbersome for our record keeping. So this decision to modify our custom is not being taken lightly. We welcome your feedback and even your suggestions, while at the same time asking that as of January, you respectfully accept the change. We do plan to continue exploring options and to reevaluate how we will proceed in approximately 6 months. So that letter will be going out to the congregation in the next several weeks, and we will have that change in our worship pattern for Mishaberach as of January. Okay, change of tone. In 1 month from today, Lynn and I will celebrate the 30th anniversary of our first date at Marco's Restaurant in Farmington Hills, Michigan. And I know of many others who arrange to celebrate meaningful moments, occasions in their particular lives, not only on marking a first date or an anniversary or a birthday. And people could do this anywhere, of course, but usually we find a particular place or a particular time of day or a particular way in which to generate, as it were, a flood of memories, of feelings, associations. On a broader scale, Americans do the same thing as a people, as a nation. We turn to the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, the burial ground in Gettysburg, the Lincoln Memorial, walk into a space enclosed by columns and stand in front of a statue, and there's a host of feelings and associations that flood over you as to what America is all about. You feel differently, you feel special. You might even act differently than you do in the streets that surround that particular place, monument, or memory-filled occasion. How much the more so did some 20 of us experience that in Israel just last month also. Certain places were sacred spaces for us. Now, every religion singles out certain spots on earth that constitute a central point of relevance, of reference, of holiness, around which the rest of the community usually organizes. It might be a spot where God seemed to first appear to our ancestors. That's why it's often portrayed in many, many cultures and religions as a gateway In Hebrew, we call it the Sha'ar LaShamayim, gateway to the heavens, through which symbolically either God descends down to us on earth, or we, or at least our prayers, ascend to God's presence through that gateway. The Bible, the Torah especially, preserves a number of references to such sacred places, several of which we visited just last month. Mount Moriah in Jerusalem, the spot where Abraham was prepared to offer his son as a sacrifice. It's referred to as the mountain where God is to be perceived. Later in Exodus, there's the spot of the burning bush. And then ultimately, of course, Mount Sinai. This week's Torah portion, Vayetze, tells a well-known story with a classic example of how a single spot in our history can become so sacred, so special. You might remember that on his way to Haran, he was fleeing from his brother Esau. Jacob stops for a night and has a dream. And the symbolism of the dream, a ladder that's set on the ground with its top reaching up into heaven, and there are angels ascending and descending upon it, that the symbolism captures the sense of that gateway that Jacob could envision leading up to the heavens. Jacob wakes up. Maybe the rock was a little too uncomfortable for him, or maybe the dream was a little too jarring. He wakes up and perceives the meaning of his dream. Aha, he says, achen in Hebrew. Yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh v'anochi lo yadati. God is surely present in this place. This is none other than the house of God, the gateway to heaven, and I did not know it. And to commemorate that experience in that place, Jacob takes the stone on which he had rested his head, and he puts it down as a monument, as a memorial to connect him and God at that particular place. It's called Beit El, the house of God, pronounced in our slang as Bethel, but it's Beit El in Hebrew. Sacred spaces in Jewish history, in the Bible and the Torah, have a mixed history. Yes, there's that story that gives us Bethel, not only the place, but the name. The most curious of them, however, is Mount Sinai. We might have expected that Sinai would become a central sacred place for Jews. After all, that's where the revelation, that's where Ma'amad Har Sinai, the standing, and everyone postures at Mount Sinai. But in fact, it doesn't become so special, other than in word. Apart from that, what's recorded in Exodus chapter 20, and it might be recalled when Moses tells the people when he reviews Deuteronomy, which is a review of everything that had happened in the wilderness, Sinai is just about forgotten and hardly ever mentioned again in the entire Bible, not just the Torah. There's no record of any shrine there. There's no memorial. There's no act of worship there. We don't even know precisely where Sinai is. Don't tell the tour guides. But Moriah, Mount Moriah, the site of the Akedah, of the binding of Isaac story, we stood there only 2 weeks ago. That's a different matter. That spot is identified throughout the Bible as the place where the temple in Jerusalem was to be built. The temple itself was a later version of the Mishkan, of the sanctuary in the desert. It was the gateway for generations, the gateway to heaven. At the heart of the temple stood the ark, and on the ark's cover were 2 angels, 2 cherubim, with their wings spreading out over their heads, and the space between them was indeed the spot through which God would appear to the people. It's described and pictured and illustrated throughout our history. But what about that place in Jacob's dream? What about Bethel? Wasn't that God's dwelling place and not the temple in Jerusalem? Again, don't tell the guides. Drawing on the symbolism of that ladder, the Midrash, the rabbinic literature, jumps in, explains that the foot of the ladder stood down in the southern part of the Promised Land. The head of the ladder stood all the way in the northern part at Bethel and right in the middle. Some of you who were there remember I was talking about the Western Wall as being where the two lines of history come together. Right in the middle, that's Mount Moriah. That's Jerusalem. Jerusalem becomes the center of the Jewish religious world, the site of the temple where alone for centuries God could be worshipped. It was the site of pilgrimage, even after the destruction of the temples. Wherever Jews stood to worship, we turned and we faced Jerusalem. North America, we faced to the east. Russia, they faced to the south. South America, they faced to the north, etc., etc. But throughout all of these things, we acknowledge that there is a centrality of the symbols and the ways that we find gateways to understand our lives and gateways to that which is holy. But no single space is inherently sacred. What we as Jews have learned throughout our history, is that space is no longer sanctified by God. It may have been symbolically so to Jacob, or to Moses, or to King David, but not to us. We don't need this one place. We ourselves sanctify space by deciding that's where we will be, that's where we will gather, that's where we will pray, that's where we will study, that's where we will be ourselves as Jews. That's what makes the place holy. We have revived an entirely different model of sacred space, teaching that our ancestors in the course of their desert wanderings could find in their sanctuary anywhere that they were throughout their wanderings in the desert. What destroyed the model of one inherent gateway to heaven was the notion that God was only present in that one place. If God is truly God, then God can be reached from any place on earth. So those of us who were in the Holy Land 2 weeks ago, those of us who join here in this holy space tonight, have the same way of approaching God and feeling the same closeness to the gateway to heaven. We teach these days, wherever it is that we turn to God in prayer, wherever it is that we turn to God in friendship and support of each other, that spot becomes our Bethel, our house for God's presence to dwell. For us, as for Jacob, we too stand in a gateway to heaven. We can dream of that ladder with its foot on earth, its top reaching to the heavens, and we take one step at a time to come closer to who and where God wants us to be. Thus may it be, and we say, Amen. We will continue in praising God's name. Aleinu, page 282, the bottom of 282. Again, the ark will be open. I invite you to rise if you're comfortable in doing so. And we'll join in chanting together the bottom of 282 and the following pages. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latei gdula le'otzeh bereshit, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון, ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגהור עלינו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. 284. שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומי. הוא אלוהינו אלוהינו, אמת מלכנו וזולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשיבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינו. 287. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Page 291. 291. It is hard to sing of oneness when our world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone, and naught but their memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were in company with those we love. It cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become. Yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and words. What they did is part of what we have become. So we do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the very shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world, and each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming that one, we affirm the worth of each one whose life now ended brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone and every life does find its purpose. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth. We remember our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost. The martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, they died al Kiddush Hashem. Victims of senseless acts of hatred and terrorism and racism around the world, as well as victims of natural disasters. And we honor those who gave their lives in the service of forces of decency and democracy, those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. We remember them and we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. As a holy congregation, we honor the memories of those who have been taken to their eternal home during this past year. We remember Eric Rotenberg and Celia Abramson, Yaakov ben Yosef Azizo, Barry Fassman, Sonny Feugelman, David Allen Gaiman, Jim Greenwald, Bud Heller, Wendy Wallach Levy, Ronald Nassalo, Tim Orrick, Louis Palm, Michael Rabin, Denise Rutenberg, Robert Sanser, Shmaria Zichri ben Zissel Chana v'Harav Ilan David, and Lawrence Vogel. And we honor the memories of those the anniversary of whose death, their yard sites we will be observing during this month. We think of David Bandy, Michael Clendenin, Eugene Cohn, Sarah Deitch, Benjamin Ehrlich, Barry Fasson, Charles Feldman, Gertrude Feldman, Morty Foyer, Isabella Gonzalez, Gussie Cantor, Kelly Kern, Larry Koblitz, Benjamin D. Levitt, Merton Levy, Jim Leby, Joseph Lowe, Miriam Lowe, Fanny Lubarsky, Lee Marin, Minnie Miller, Robert Milstein, Anita Moscow, Jack Rabin, Annette Roter, David Shanzer, Ruth Side, Erwin Shapiro, Rose Simon, Stanley Sofer, Minnie Summer, Benjamin Stein, Herb Steiner, Anna Grace Trachtenberg, Sadie Weintraub, Jenny T. Wool, and others whose names, please, I know that you mentioned a yard site coming this month also.
You mentioned David Bandy. I'll add Vicki Halverson too.
Okay, please.
Anne Warmulis.
We link their names with the memories of those of our people who perished in the Shoah, countless others whose names are unknown, for whom there is no one to recite Kaddish, Zichronam Livracha. May their memories be for a blessing, and may their souls rest in peace. Mourner's Kaddish is on page 294. Our tradition is that we rise as one community, a congregation in prayer. We recite words hallowed by centuries of faith, praising God's name. Yit Gadal v'yit Gadash Me'rava v'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael bagal v'zman kariv v'imru amen Yehei shmei rabba v'barach le'olam olon me'olmaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei kudsha b'richu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata ta'amiran b'yalma v'yibru amen Yehei shlam rabba min shamaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru amen Oseh shalom b'mromav Huya se shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol b'nei Adam v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring comfort to those amongst us who are grieving, and may God, in answer to our prayers, bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all humanity, to which we say, Amen. Amen. Please be seated. After we conclude, please join us over here on my left, your right, for Kiddush and Motzi and a little Oneg Shabbat. Thanks to those who helped prepare and those who participated in the worship this evening. An Argentinian melody brought to us through the cantors of B'nai Jeshurun congregation in Manhattan. Page 321, Adon Olam. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra, Lehed Nasa B'chefzo Kol, Hazai Melech, Shemoni Karam Ve'achare Kichlot Hakol Levado Yimloch Nora Vehu Haya Vehu Hove Vehu Yihye Betifara Vehu Echad Ve'en Sheni להמשיל לו להכבירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה. והוא אלי, וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, ומעט כוסי ביום קרה. בידו הפקיד רוחי, בעת אישן והעירה, ואם רוחי גביעתי, אדוני לי ולא יירא. הלילה Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, a good Shabbos.